Okay, everybody, it's Mr. Lincoln once again. We are continuing to talk about access databases and what they are and what they do, and trying to get you guys a little bit of knowledge about this stuff. So we are continuing on with our My First database that we did earlier, and let's go ahead and present the screen so you can see what I'm talking about here. So we have two tables that we created yesterday. We have a customer table full of customers, and we have a zip code table with some zip codes on it. And what we are doing is we are using the zip code table as a reference to find out the city and state that we're going to need if we ever decide to take the customer's address and zip code and make some kind of mailing list out of it. Okay, so by doing that, we keep ourselves from having to put in city and state on everybody's individual records here. Okay, we don't put everybody's city and state. We just use the zip code to reference, and then we get the city and state off of the zip code table. And I showed you yesterday real quick how that works, and I made a quick little report out of it. But I want to show you more in depth a couple of things that we do. So we have tables of information that we use, and we cross-reference it. And the way that we cross-reference it is to use a database tool called relationships. And the relationships, we take it, we click, and we drag, and we drop onto a different one, and we create a little bridge that says, hey, if we're looking for a particular zip code, go over here to the zip code database, match it up, and find out the city and state that are in the same line. Okay? So that is a relationship. So when you do that, when you make these relationships, you have what's called a relational database. Okay? There's flat databases, which are just a table, and then there's relational databases where there are little connections between the tables that allow you to follow that little lead onto some more information about what you need to know. Okay? So let's now go ahead and do a couple of things. First off, we're going to learn about reports. Okay? A report is very simple and very easy to do. It's basically like taking your database or databases, your tables, and using bits and pieces off of each one in order to make a comprehensive set of facts that you might need. Okay? So for example, we're going to use this to create let's say a mailing list kind of thing. All right? So I'm going to take the customer information that I need from the customer database and the zip code database to create something that has the person's mailing address. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and go to Create. Go to the Create tab. Okay. Now in the Create tab, you've used tables before to create your second table. Query we will get to into a little bit, as we will with forms. Okay. But the last one here over here is reports. Okay. And we're going to use now. Here's the deal. You can create a report as a blank and put stuff into it if you really, really know what you're doing. You can design a report if you'd like to get a little bit of help and assistance in the design tab from the start to put together your own report. But that's kind of a pro move if you really know what you're doing. Blank reports just for God mode. You know, it's you're really super awesome at this access stuff and you know exactly what you want to do and you don't need no dang computer getting in your way. Then blank reports for you. But we're all noobs here. So we're going to go ahead and use this thing called Report Wizard. A wizard is a step-by-step guide to help you create things. There's a report wizard. There's a form wizard. There's a query wizard. Okay. These all help you to put together the bits and pieces that you need to make these different things that are very helpful. So, Report Wizard, go ahead and click on it. You may get something saying, oh, security something or other. This is a basic web page on your computer, so just say open. Okay, so the Report Wizard starts off wanting to know what it is that you are trying to make a report out of. Okay, now this drop-down menu, which is really easy to miss. It's it took me when I started first using this, it took me a little while to figure out, yeah, there's actually multiple tables and stuff that you can pull from, and it's on a drop-down list here. So if yours doesn't already say table customers, go to the drop-down list and choose the table customers. Okay. Now, here are all of the fields on your customer list. Okay. Here are all of the fields that go across the top. What things do we need to know if we're just creating something for envelopes that we are putting together for a mailing list? Do we need customer ID? No, that's an internal thing that we don't need to put on a document, right? So what about first name? Yeah, we should probably put on first name, right? So double click on first name. That is one way to get an available field into your selected fields that you're going to use. The other one is this little arrow right here, this little single arrow that points to the right. You should be clicked on last name right now. Go ahead and click that little arrow, and it clicks it over. Okay. Now, let's just say that we get we just want a report of everything. So you can use this double arrow to click everything over. Use the double arrow to click everything over. Okay. Now, obviously we got things in there that we don't need. Click on customer ID. Use this left-facing arrow to put it back in the available fields and not one of the selected fields. Okay. Now, zip code, birthday, and amount owed, we don't need those either, so go ahead and either click this arrow or double-click them back over into the available fields area. Obviously, this double left arrow basically means take everything off of the selected fields and put it back in the available field. Okay, so what you should have is first name, last name, and address. If you don't have them in this order, once again, you can double-click or you can click them all, double-click them, or use the double arrow, put them all back, and then one at a time, first name, last name, address. Okay, so once you've got those three in place, now switch over to your zip codes table. Your zip codes table. Now, they're out of order. Okay, so after address, we're going to double click on city. Then we're going to click on state. And then we're going to click on zip code. And that is the standard address format. First name, last name, address, city, state, zip code. Okay. Formatting and all that stuff we will handle later. Right now, we're just putting together the table. All right, so let's go ahead and say next. Okay, it's going to ask how you want to see it. How do you want to view your data? You can view it by zip codes, which have zip codes, and then first name, last name, address. Or you can do it by customer, first name, last name, address, city, state, zip code. The by customer is the one that you really want. Okay, say next. Grouping is a thing where it's like, let's group up everybody in the city. Okay, so it's like we have a grouping of city, and then it shows everybody's information. Okay. You can do that. You cannot do that. Grouping basically allows you to cluster up people by a particular attribute, and then like sort the rest of them inside of the box of that particular sort. Okay. Don't do anything with that. Go ahead and say next. Now it says, what kind of sorting do you want for your records? So this is general sorting. Like if you need to like sort this in a particular way. For example, we would like to sort this by last name. Put somebody's last name, sort it by last names first. Then if we've got two Martinez's or something like that, we'll sort them by first name. Okay. We'll sort them by last name, then by first name. Okay. And obviously, like we don't really have anything else that would be like useful as far as sorting is concerned. So we're not really worried about that. Now on the side here, you can see that there's ascending, and if you click it, is also descending. Okay. Ascending basically means A to Z, or 0 to a bigger number, and descending is the opposite, Z down to A, or the biggest number down to the smallest number. So to get to the last name, once again, you do the little drop-down box, and you find which one it is that you want. Okay. Say next. There's a couple of different layouts. Tabular is just fine. Justified is all right. You can leave it on tabular. Orientation, you can make it portrait or landscape. Let's change it to landscape so that the paper is side to side. Change it to landscape so that your paper is not like this, it's printed like this. Okay. Say next. And what do you want to call this? Let's call this customer addresses. ADDRESS. ES. Just kidding. Addresses. Customer addresses. That is the name of this report. And now you've got two choices here. You can preview the report, or you can go into a report design mode, which is not necessary. Let's just see what the preview says. Go ahead and finish. All right. Now we can see that the report has the last name and the first name and the address of the person, and the city and the state and the zip code. Now, is that exactly how we wanted to see it? Not exactly. Okay. So let's say we wanted to make some changes. Let's close this print preview. Okay. And if you close it, it drops you into the design mode. Okay. This is the design view. If you look on the left-hand side here, you can see that there's another view window for you. There's report view, print preview view, layout view, and design view. Okay. Now, you can see that there's 4 distinct sections. This first blue section right here is the report header. This is basically what's going up here at the top of the page. Okay. Then page header is labels that are going to appear underneath that title, but they're basically the labels that appear at the top of the screen. Then you have details, which is basically, the detail section is basically the repeating information that it gets off of the table. It's going to do all of the information line by line by line by line by line, giving each of these things every time it does one of these. And then after it's done with each of the things that are on the table that needs to get put into the report, then it will go to this thing, the page footer, where it will give you today's date and time, which is the now function, and a thing that says page like 1 of 6 or something like that. Okay? Now, we can, not that. Okay, we can adjust this to do what we need it to do. First off, last name and first name, I'd like to switch those. Okay? You can take these boxes and you can actually move them around. Click on the edges of a box, especially this gray square here. Click on the gray square. You can move stuff around. Switch the first name and the last name boxes around. Okay? Now, remember, page header area is the area that is just the labels at the top. So you do have to switch your detail boxes as well. You've got to switch your detail boxes as well. If you don't, then the first name will be listed as the last name, and the last names will be listed as the first names, and a lot of people will get really confused. Okay? Now I want you to take a look at something. Every one of these these orange squares that you see around something that you click on has the little squares on the sides that indicate that they can be resized. Take the boxes for first name, click and drag on the corner, on the box in the middle, and resize them. Maybe like about 1/3 of the way that they used to be. Okay? Now, you've got to, if you, now move up the last name and the addresses and the city. Take these and move them around a little bit. Okay? So you compacted the first name a little bit, and you brought everybody up a little bit, and here's why. Look at your label for state. When you look at it in the preview mode, it just says stop. So what I need to do is increase the size of the label for state. And I don't really need to increase the size of the actual state itself. I could, but it's like, I know that it's about the size that I need to. So I can either increase the size of the bar, or I could just go ahead and just move it to where it's underneath the state label. Okay. Now you can always go down here and check your print preview. See how it looks. Okay. So now I can clearly see the entire word state. Okay. While also not doing too much to impact the first name and the last name and the address and all that stuff. Okay. All right. So now once again, you can go to view, you can go to report view. You see the report. Print preview, see it as it would look on a page. Layout view. Okay. Another way that you can make some small adjustments to like where things are and what things look like is in layout view. But design view is where the real meat and potatoes are. Okay. All right. Now there are various different things that you could put in there, headers and footer stuff, various like things where you could drop in some extra information or attachments or something like that. If you want to put in a logo, you can put the little picture in as a logo up here in the report header and it would appear at the top. You could change the theme and the colors and all kinds of good stuff like that, but not necessary. You have created a report that you can print out that's got the information that you need. Now, let's do another report real quick. Yes, save the changes that you made. Let's do another report. Go to Create, Report Wizard again. Okay. This time, let's just do customer ID, last name, and amount owed. Okay, and this one's real simple. Just say next, next. Okay. Sort by customer ID. Customer ID is a unique ID, so you wouldn't need any other sorting done. Okay, say next, and then call it customer dues. Customer dues. Okay, say finish. Okay, customer ID, last name, amount owed. Okay. Now close these. Okay. Now, if you haven't already, put yourself in here as customer 4. You don't have to give your real address. You can put in whatever you want. The zip code, though, remember, we made referential integrity. So the zip codes have to be one of the ones that's on the list. Don't forget that. $25.75. Okay, and I spent a lot of money. I spent like $6,000. Yay, I'm a big spender. Okay. And let's make another person. Let's make Mr. American. And he's going to be at 500 West Formosa. He's sneaky and gave the school's address. Okay, and let's say his birthday is New Year's Day of 1985. Okay, and he owes $800. Uh-oh, I didn't put a zip code that's on the list. So Now, if you want to, if you didn't put 78211 on the list, you can go down here to the zip code list. You can say 78211. San Antonio. TX. Anytime you add a zip code to the list, it becomes one that you can add to the list. And now that that one's on the list, now I can tab down and do some more. Okay, so we got a few more people on there. Yay! Now, these reports are permanent. But here's the deal. The reports, whenever you pull them up, automatically regenerate based on the new information. So go to Customers, right-click and save. Zip codes, right-click and save if you want to, if you need to. And now I can bring up, let's bring up customer addresses again. And now customer addresses, the report for customer addresses now has all 5 people on there in order, rearranged. See how I was number 4 and Mr. Marquine was number 5? Well, in alphabetical order, it's rearranged us. It's put in the new information for our streets and everything like that. And so the database has updated this report based on the information that it now has. So it's got an even more accurate report with the new information. Okay? So the cool thing about reports is that, and the cool thing about databases is, if you add new information to the database, it's not static. If this was Excel, I would have to go in there and probably change a bunch of stuff and add some lines and put in some new code about going and getting certain information and blah, blah, blah. Okay? Access databases just go and look at the tables, they get the information, they create the reports for you. That is a lot better and a lot faster than doing all of this stuff in Excel. You guys understand that? That's pretty convenient, right? So, like every time you need some new information, just pull up the report again, pull the information, and all of these reports that you create, they're just there. They're just waiting for you to pull them up and ask for them. Okay? So it's not like you have to like reprogram them every time like you possibly would in Excel. Every time you want to do something, they are there just waiting for you to pull them up and see what's new. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and close out this customer address form. And the other, I'm sorry, the customer address report and the other report as well. If you've got customer dues opened up, you can close that as well. Now, a new thing that we can create. Let's talk about queries. Queries are questions. Like you want to see a certain group of people only. You can create a query that every time you open up this query, it'll re-update itself and show you only the people in that query or have that kind of information. Let's go ahead and go to the Create tab and go to Create Query Wizard. Query Wizard. Okay, let's do a simple query wizard. That's fine. Say OK. And what do we want to see in our query? I want to see, this is going to be a list of naughty, naughty customers who owe us too much money. So let's go ahead and say customer ID. Yes, first name and last name. And also amount owed. Okay. Now, do we need other information from the zip codes table? No, since we aren't concerned about their addresses and stuff, well, we don't need the city and state, so we don't need to cross-reference the other tab. All right, so customer ID, first name, last name, amount owed, say next. Okay, do we want to see a detail of every field or a summary? Details are always good. Say next. It says customer's query. Let's take that and erase it, and let's say, let's go ahead and say biggest debt. Biggest debts. How about S, plural? Biggest debts. Okay, and we're going to open the query to view information. We'll go ahead and say that. Yes, that's fine for now. Go ahead and say finish. Once you've typed in biggest debts as the name of this, go ahead and say finish. Notice how every time you create something, you get one of these objects on the side here. That's because you got it on all access objects. But you have 2 tables, you have a query now, and you've got 2 reports. Okay, so this query has pulled up the information for this group of people. Okay? Now, What do we do with this information? How can we make changes to it? What can we see? Well, we can see that the amount owed is here on the side, but it's not in any kind of order yet. Okay, now you could do something like these, sorting smallest to largest. That is a thing to do, or largest to smallest. You can do that. But queries are questions, and they can be changed to design this so that it automatically comes up that way. And you don't have to use filters, and you don't have to manually click on whether or not it's the set to smallest or largest and stuff like that. Let's go over here, back to the Home tab, and let's go to the Design view. Just like we did with our table, there's a Design view for queries. Okay. SQL is a much more advanced version of this kind of stuff. We're not going to deal with that for right now. We're just going to go to Design View. And now you can see that you kind of have like one part relationship count thing, okay? But also all of this stuff down here, which is how you really more or less set up the query. Okay, so here are the fields that we have coming from table customers. Now, line 3 says sort. Do you want to sort any of these rows in any particular way? I say yes. I want to sort based on the amount owed. So go to sort, underneath amount owed. Use the drop-down menu and say, I want it to be a descending sort. A descending sort. Okay? This sort will go from biggest to smallest. Okay? Now, go up here to the top. There's an exclamation point here that says run. That means do the things that I have asked you to do down here in this thing. Run this query. Click on run, and it goes back to the query, and you are organized. Now, if you close this and save it, and you open it up, it will automatically be in a sorted fashion. If you didn't do this, if you did it from here, it might not actually be that way the next time you open it up. But if you do the biggest debts and you close it and you open it, and that it will automatically come up. So let's make some changes. Let's say Bob Jones went on a spending spree, and he owes us $5,000 now. And Julie Smith really started spending money, and she owes us $25,000 now. So up her amount owed to $25,000. Okay. Now customers save. Right click and save to save your information. And if you didn't close queries, you can close it. Now open up queries again. Biggest debts. And once again, the table is automatically updated with the new information and rearranged as you have asked it to, biggest to smallest amount owed. So a query is a question that you are asking your database to figure out for you. Okay? Now let's go ahead and go back to Design View one more time on your biggest debts query. There is another thing underneath here. You can also choose whether or not to show particular data. If you undo the check mark, it does not show the data. The last ones, though, are criteria. Criteria basically are, I would like you to only show me certain things. Okay? For example, if you were trying to do a list of people with a last name of L, on the last name column, you would type in the letter quote L. Quote L, quote. Okay? And then only people with a last name of L would show up on the list. Okay? Anyway, the criteria that we would like to do also on here, let's say that we only want the big spenders. Okay? Put in a greater than sign, 1,000. The criteria is it must be greater than 1,000 on the amount owed. Run that list. And now we see only our big fish. Okay? Only the big fish. Only the people who owe more than $1,000 are on our list now. Oh, one more thing. Everybody take a look here. If you want to have two criteria, you go down to the or and you put in another criteria. Now remember, the more criteria you put on there, the more detailed the list gets as far as how exclusive it is trying to get on that list, okay? So the more things I add for criteria on these or lines, the harder it is to make the list, and the fewer people are probably going to be on it. Oh, one more thing also. If you wanted to see like only people with a last name of L, you don't just type in L, you type in L and a star. Okay, that Shift 8 character, the one that we used for multiply in Excel, that is called a wildcard. A wildcard character. It basically means I would like to see people with a last name of L to start with, and I don't care what happens afterwards. It could be Lankin, it could be Lawson, it could be Ludicrous. It doesn't matter as long as it's got an L on the front of it. So you say L star, okay? And that means that anybody with a first letter of their last name is L, and doesn't matter what else, that person gets to be on the list. And of course it didn't do it because it's stupid. It should work that way, but it's not. Oh well. I understand. So it's about that time. So that is how you do reports and queries in a database. All right, so save this stuff, and we will see you guys tomorrow.